You are about to hear the Parental Dadvisory podcast. Parental Dadvisory contains lots of adult content. You may hear swearing, sex talk, discussions about the challenges of parenting, drink recipes, and more. Parental Dadvisory is real, it's raw, and definitely not safe for work. Consider that your fucking warning. So put up your feet, grab your favorite adult beverage, and behold the glory that is the Parental Dadvisory podcast. Previous statement about putting up your feet drinking does not apply to those that are driving. Here's Doug and Jay.
And Chris.
And special guest, Chris.
And special guest, honorary co-host at this point.
I'm your favorite stalker. I know it, guys.
We got to get him a jacket like Saturday Night Live, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got to show him that. I didn't get to show you. I told him I had never used StreamYard other than being on Brothers and Booze with you guys. And I was like, oh, cool, there's a countdown. And I was like, well, fuck, it's the same countdown they use. So I was like, I'll make my own damn intro video.
I think it worked. I think it was fine.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah. So welcome everybody. Welcome to Parental Dadvisory. It's been a minute.
I think it's been more than a single minute.
Many minutes.
So we're trying something new tonight. Inspired by Brothers and Booze. I wanted to do a live broadcast. This will not be a regular thing. In the sense of this will not be our weekly or bi-weekly podcast, but every once in a while we'd like to do this, get everybody on here. And we will also still be offering the podcast format of this. So once this is live, I'll be taking it and editing it down and getting it uploaded. But yeah, for anybody who prefers to drop in, I think right now we are live streaming through Facebook, my Twitch, and the Parental Dadvisory Twitter. If all of those go smoothly tonight, in the future, we'll look at adding other stuff in. So I know it's been a long time for me and you, Doug, but I'm going to start with Chris. What have you been up to?
I teach middle school, so it's nonstop fun for me, guys. The same group of kiddos I had last year, I followed them to 7th grade, and they're like, "Are you going to do it again?" I'm like, "Guys, 3 years of me is pretty severe emotional damage, but if you're down, let's roll."
Emotional damage.
I was thinking the same fucking thing.
And then Doug, I know what's been up with you. Again, I feel bad making you recap, but we probably have a few different listeners. So if you want to tell everybody what's been up with you since we've last done a Parental Dadvisory podcast.
A few things here and there. Yeah, obviously kids are older, everybody's growing, but I think the big thing was in November, the weekend after Thanksgiving, we were at my parents' and I actually had a heart attack and had to go into the emergency room. I sat in an emergency room hallway for 36 hours because COVID patients had the entire hospital filled. And they were just basically feeding me nitroglycerin just to get me to where I could get a bed. So I went in, they did a heart catheterization where basically it's super interesting in the abstract when you're not in a moment, where they basically, through your wrist, they put in a camera and they just run it in and they run it into your freaking heart and they look at all your arteries and I had blockages in 3 of the 3 arteries out of 5, I think. And one of them's a widowmaker. I had an artery blockage that was most of it. So I had to have 3 stents just put in that one alone and 2 other stents. And so stents are just little plastic tubes that they put in to widen your arteries and take out the plaque that's in there. Yeah, that was super exciting. I think the most disturbing part was I'm in there and you're awake during this procedure. You're just awake because they need you to, they'll prompt you to do things like, breathe deep or do so they're going through and it's like, forgive me, Jay, it's like you see in Grey's Anatomy, which I fucking hate that show, but the doctors are joking around and they have music playing in the background. It's all cool. And all of a sudden everybody gets dead quiet. And I was like, can you continue talking? I don't like it when you're quiet. And they just saw the blockages and they had to pull out and say, we have to go consult with the cardiologist because this is a lot more than we thought. And so that was that was my November. I had another trip back to the ER where I was having high blood pressure and chest pains. My blood pressure when I went in with the heart attack was 210 over 110, which is like higher than you should ever be when you're even exercising. So it was incredibly high. When I went in the second time, it was 190 over 99, and I was having chest pain. They went in, they couldn't find anything wrong. So now I have, we're just doing diagnosis. At this point, I still have some residual healing I'm doing with some light, like chest heaviness. For a while, I had pain in my ribs. That was really weird because it was sort of a touch, like I'd been punched a bunch of times. Don't recommend. 0 out of 10 stars. If you can avoid that shit, please avoid it.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm working on, right? Since we last, just because I was like, time to find a doctor here, time to lose some weight, and I went in and told him your story, and he's like, oh, okay, but yeah, I had been using one of the home-mounted blood pressure things, and there was one day, like I looked at Aubrey after work because I had been tracking it. My client was just being so horrible all week, and I had one day where like everything just came to a head. And like I ran it and I was like, oh, that can't be right. And I ran it again and I Googled the numbers and it's like, you might want to call the hospital, hypertensive crisis. And I was so done with it. She's like, you either got to have the doctor help you or you can't do that job anymore. So
my wife is going to be watching from home going, see, Jay and Doug went to the doctors and they work out. And I'm going to be like, I can't hear you.
He's like, I got my AirPods in. I can't hear you.
I can't go back to Sister Wives, baby. I love you.
I'm watching Brothers and Booze. I can't hear what you're saying.
I can't. I don't understand.
Yeah, there's a weird thing. I don't know if you guys are like this, but I have that sort of dumb old mentality of like, just fucking muscle through it. Just do all that stuff. And don't do that. Just if you have high blood pressure, if you have shit going on, stuff doesn't feel right, go get checked. Don't be a hero. That hero nonsense almost killed me. Literally almost killed me. So please go take care of yourselves. That's my PSA for the day. Thank you.
We all can't have an arc reactor like Tony Stark,
No. Although I am no longer biodegradable because I have plastic in my heart.
So you're like, you're not halfway there. You're a quarter of a way there. You're kind of like a mini Tony Stark.
Yeah, without the wealth and the brain power. So,
okay, so I think our first hot take is going to be 2 different Halo items, but I'm going to start with the upcoming Paramount Plus TV show. So I'm going to pull up and share the trailer for those of you who haven't seen it, and if you haven't, where the hell have you been?
Yeah.
So let me get this going over here.
I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, come on, like you haven't seen it.
Oh, I've seen it more a few times, but I'll watch it again happily.
Just a couple of weeks, right? 2 weeks or so from now?
I think. We need volume.
No volume?
No volume.
Oh, it doesn't like it. Wow, earlier it worked.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. Did you check the volume level? As we're troubleshooting IT stuff in the middle of the show. It's great.
Hey, it's the first time we told everyone.
Yeah.
It's funny. While he's checking that, I'll have my Apple Watch on and it, monitors your heart rate. And I'll be in the middle of a discussion with a student who's just not getting it. And it pops up. It's like, have you considered taking a breath? I'm like, I swear I'll smash you on the desk. Now is not the time.
All right.
Okay, it says that I've got it. Let's see this.
There we go.
You. Humanity's best weapon. Master Chief, huh?
The Master Chief was enhanced and trained for one purpose: to win this war. He and the other Spartans are our only effective weapons against the Covenant. He's lethal, upgradable, and most importantly, controllable.
Like Doug's
Cosmic
heart.
forces appear to be excavating some kind of object. When I touched the object, I felt something. I felt different. What they did to us makes you numb.
And you just decided to help me. Why would a Spartan do that?
What does one do with a superhuman you're not sure you can trust?
Hello, Master Chief. I'm Cortana.
Master Chief recovered something.
Sacred ring. Halo.
Humans. Surrender to the Covenant.
Cortana, I'm gonna need you now. Find the Halo. Win the war.
So I'll start with you, Doug. First thoughts.
Well, first of all, not using Master Chief's real voice is a little bit of a bummer because that's not the guy who does it. It's Pablo Schreiber, who I'm not familiar with. So that's a bit of a bummer. But as long as you get the mannerism sounds, I think they'll be fine with that. I'm glad they used Cortana, the actual Jen Taylor, who's Cortana's voice. I'm glad they're using that. I'm with Chris. I think you said in like pre-production that you're just a little mystified that they had him like dodging multiple energy swords. Which, yeah, that's a little thing. But I'll be interested to see the idea of control of Master Chief, like to control him, wasn't a huge thing in the games. Now, I haven't read all the books or anything like that. I see that as an angle they're using, which makes me wonder if they're going to make Master Chief kind of a rebel, and that's against Master Chief's whole thing. So to me, that's a bit of a worrisome thing, but we'll see how they play that. What do y'all think?
Chris?
I mean, I get what they're trying to do. So Halo is what are we, like seven or eight games now in like 8 or 9 different novels. Like it's a pretty deep mythology, and everybody's been waiting for a Halo movie, or I think a series is probably the best way to go, right? You can't do Halo justice in a 2.5 hour movie. What I love, the aliens look just like they did in the game, right? They look terrifying. The energy swords look good. The weapons look good. It looks like a combination of like Infinite, like small fort fighting. I know there's some people who are a little upset. They're like, we're going to see John Spartan's face. So what? Like, I don't care. It's not a big deal to me.
There's a part of me that wants that not to happen, but I get it. They have to do different stuff with the show. So anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, I'm looking forward to it. Like I played the first Halo on the first Xbox, so I am very much like, let's see what you got. It's going to have to be a balancing act, right? Because your Master Chief people are the run and gun, let's blow stuff up, but there is also a storyline that's going on here. So if you go too heavy either way, you're going to alienate some amount of fans.
No matter which way you go, you're going to alienate some fans. So
absolutely, yeah. And I think you've seen that in the timeline of things. You know, like you both said, with there being multiple games and books, nobody's ever perfectly happy, right? And I think that goes for all of us. We could all pick out things we didn't like about certain games. I think all of us, our biggest gripe right now is we don't have co-op in Infinite. But for the TV show itself, I was impressed by some things. Like you said, Doug, one thing that stood out to me is they did use the Cortana voice actress for Cortana in the show. I did see some people on Twitter kind of getting miffed about the Cortana design in the show. They're like, why didn't you just give us Cortana from the games? It's CGI anyways. To me, it's not that big enough of a deal. Like it's not making me be like, oh, I'm not going to watch it because Cortana looks a little bit different in the show. Same thing. I don't want to see the face, at least not in the first season, I guess. But I mean, we'll see where they have to take it. I will say I'm thoroughly impressed. Like I feel like had they tried to do this years ago, it would be like every other thing we wanted to be good that was disappointing, like the Resident Evils and I think of the most recent one is Uncharted with Tom Holland. Everybody is like, those games could have been fabulous in movie form, but when it comes down to it, you have to have the writers there and the backing. And I don't feel like we're going to have that here. There may be some small things, but I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, with the I don't think Tom Holland was the right casting for that, but that's me. I always saw, what's the guy's name? Drake? Sorry, I'm getting that wrong. But the hidden cast is that guy. He was a more gritty, like kind of stubble beard guy. Like,
you're talking about Mark Wahlberg's character?
No, I'm talking about Tom Holland. Doesn't he play the main Uncharted guy?
Yeah, he plays Nathan Drake. Yeah,
he plays Nathan Drake.
I thought Nathan Drake was like a little more gruff looking. Like Tom Holland's a pretty man. I don't see him as being that. Whatever. I will say. Go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I will say, I have not seen the movie yet. I'm just going off of, normal reviews like other people have had. But yeah, to your point, Doug, if I pull this up, I mean, I don't get Tom Holland out of that. Maybe in a few years.
I feel like everybody
some more
knew
scars from Marvel.
He was based on like Nathan Fillion. Like
that's exactly what it looks like.
100% Nathan Fillion, but now Nathan Fillion's just too old to pull it off. You waited too long. Like
yeah.
But I mean that it was more so the concept of, I think that there are people out there who, we've grown to take video game movies for what they are because you always want them to be better than good, and they just never turn out that way. So like, you could say that you like the Resident Evil series and it has good ones. I feel like this was a trailer that after we had heard so much about Microsoft wanting to do the show and then ending up on Paramount Plus, to actually see it and be excited about it was refreshing.
Did either of you see there was actually a Halo movie made called Forward Unto Dawn. Did you guys ever see that?
Yes.
And that was actually not bad. It was not great by any stretch, but exploring like Lasky, the guy who was the captain of Forward Unto Dawn. And it wasn't at all really much about Master Chief at all. It was just about that particular guy and how he came to be who he was. And it's kind of the hope that I have, and I don't know if you guys feel the same, is if we were talking about Nathan Fillion, is the idea of bringing like doing like an offshoot series like the ODST, the Orbital Drop Shock Troopers, and doing like Nathan Fillion with Buck and that, and using him, and he's a pretty beloved character to the point that he's like a voice you can add on to almost every Halo game since. So I would really be interested if they do that. I don't think they will, but I would like that. What do you guys think?
I remember ODST. I remember trying to play it like I was Master Chief, and I remember dying a lot.
Yeah, that one it's Master Chief isn't in that. That's all the ODST folks. And actually, for me, that was one of the best missions because it was so completely different than the other Halo stuff. Now, granted, it wasn't something that I wanted multiples of that particular game variety because it was just a nice break. And it gave us what my one friend referred to as Halo Jazz, which was when you were just in the main thing running around. It was like this background jazzy music that was like space. But yeah, that was actually pretty fun. So sorry, that was a tangent that I wanted to shout that out because that's a great game.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, the one thing I hope never makes it to the show is my most hated enemy from the Halo games, and that's the Flood. I hate the Flood.
So not fun to fight. The library in was that Halo 2 or 3? I think it was Halo 2.
It was 2.
And that was a motherfucker of a fucking mission because the Flood was just terrible.
And if you played with a bad partner, game over. Game over.
With Jay.
Hey, try playing that on Legendary by yourself. That was I've beaten every game in Halo that I played on Legendary status by myself to get the Lone Wolf thing.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I just ran my head into a wall for like fucking 15 hours trying to get through that one mission. I just remember that being terrible.
It was brutal. Oh no! Please don't bring them to the show. It will give me nightmares.
No, I don't think they're going to do that. What do you guys think of the new villains, the Banished and Halo Infinite?
I'll let Chris go first.
I mean, it's interesting. I like that we've always just gotten used to the aliens as the bad guys, right? It's the aliens and the Covenant, and now like the Covenant have factions. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. You have a little break off. I know fighting them is fun. Their leader is annoying. She's pretty annoying, which is a sign of a good villain. But yeah, it's a nice intro. You don't have to retread the same villains over and over. You don't have to try and make Master Chief feel like a villain. You can just have somebody you want to fight.
Yeah. I don't know. Jay, your thoughts?
That's how it was for me picking it up. I think the last time I had actually played Halo in general was when I picked it up with you, Doug, because I hadn't played prior to that since I was in the Army. And I was like, I replayed everything, did a few games with you and your friends. And then when it came out, I was like, okay, I'm going to pick this up. And the same thing. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool and refreshing. And like, you still had the lore of the prior Halo games. But yeah, I have to agree. She could be super annoying at times. But yeah, it was kind of cool. Joshua and I ran through it, but I'm still looking forward to co-op.
Amen to that. So what's next? I mean, I could ramble on for Halo about freaking 2 hours because I'm a nerd about it. But yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, like I said, I know you and I haven't probably gamed as much as Carlton over here, so I'll let him start. What has been, I guess I will say, for the past 6 months or so, or even shorter, depending. What are your favorite go-tos, Chris?
So when I do have free time, which are breaks, I try and go through and do a mix of games. During Christmas break, winter break, I play the new Jurassic Park park building game. It's Jurassic World something, but it's the second one and it's amazing because I love dinosaurs. It's gorgeous on the Xbox. You can make dinosaurs eat people. Like, there's no better stress relief than just opening a cage and going, oh, I don't know what happened. Let's see. I was looking for The Witcher season 2 came out, so I'm like, I'm going to start Wild Hunt. That was a mistake. I did not get very far because that game is massive. And then I was like, well, let me try Skyrim. That was also a mistake because it's a very large game. So I went through and played Infinite. I just play a smattering of stuff. Right now I'm replaying Star Wars Fallen Order with my middle kid. We're going through that because we're waiting for the announcement of the sequel. And it was pretty good. But just a lot of everything.
What I have found over the last month that has made it, I guess, easier for me. So I don't know if both of you have it, but you have Game Pass Ultimate now, right? So you have all those games instead of having to buy them. They're there as an option. And then they're also on the PC. But the one thing I've really gotten into, even though it's technically still being tested, is Xbox and the cloud, right? Because I have a Series X. I don't have the add-on for the hard drive. But like, you install something, you have to free up space to add another game on Game Pass. In the cloud, you just load it up on there and it lets you play, and it's still keeping track of your stuff. So I can try the most ridiculous game. Like, I know the other night I had a few drinks and I'm like, man eater, I could be a fucking shark and eat people. Like, I loaded that thing up, played through it, and then I moved on to the next game and I tried something else out. So I think that I had a lull there where, I used to jump on, Doug, you and I, when we'd play a round of 2 or a Fortnite or whatever. Or I'd go jump on PC and play Apex with people, but I found that I just got too busy for it. But yeah, Infinite, I did play that. That one really excited me. I had the first Jurassic World, I think it's Evolution, on PC that you're referencing, and it is fun to just, I don't know why there's dinosaurs going towards the food court. Like, oops. But yeah, some of the stuff like that's out there. I know people are right now hyping up Elden Ring, which is from the Dark Souls creators, but also from why can't I think of his name? Come on, Chris, help me out. The author who helped with it.
I don't know. I've heard it's amazing, but
it's the Game of Thrones guy, I believe.
George R. Martin.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure like they took the Dark Souls development team and he got to write the story. And it's funny because everybody's in love with it, but they're also bitching because like what he calls campfires, that's not what they were called in Dark Souls, and what they call souls is different. And I'm like, well, that's what happens. You brought in an author to create a new world. So I haven't tried that one yet, but that's out there. I did try New World when it dropped, which was supposed to be, the big Amazon Studios MMO RPG. It was a fucking failure. And that's not just my opinion. Like, they had so many people who, even after alpha beta testing it, went in and just essentially fucked the economy, right? Because you're supposed to be able to go in and craft stuff and sell it. They had to stop sales. You couldn't get gold anymore. You couldn't buy the stuff you need to progress up. And it got to the point where not only me, but everybody I was playing with, we just uninstalled it. So, I mean, that's always a worry with any game. But that's where I've been at with it.
Yeah, I just been I get so tired easily anymore, so I just don't even get to stay up and play games because I always played at night because I always figured like I can go at night and I'm not bothering anybody. I'm not taking up TV time. But it's that. My wife and I still play Fortnite because it's silly and fun. It's easy, quick in and out. We don't have to do a lot of shit. But otherwise I don't really play much. I have things on my Xbox and I just don't have time to play them. I will suggest, Jay, is just getting yourself an external hard drive and plugging that shit into your thing. Does he see? I have the big one with the hard drive in. I got the Halo edition, which was really hard to get, and I just lucked into it. And if you get it, I have like a 4 terabit external hard drive that was from my other Xbox because the other Xbox I had a 500 gig hard drive, which fucking each game is like goddamn 70 gigs anymore. And if you have add-ons and all that stuff, so I couldn't even keep anything. So I just plugged that in. And as long as you have a USB port in that, then you can just plug in an external hard drive and you can actually make it install there instead of actually installing the hard drive on the Xbox.
I have the external drive from the old Xbox, but the Series X, you cannot install Series X only games on an external drive. You have to get the SSD that Seagate makes.
Lame.
You
Come
can
on,
only
Microsoft. Do better.
You can only install the non-Series X versions of games on the external drive on the Series X.
I will say the graphics on the Series X, like if you look at the way, like if you try to play like an older, like if I put Halo 5 in on that X, it looks like I'm not a big, I kind of stopped being the dick about the graphics, many years ago. Cause I'm like, everything looks really good. It looks good enough for me, whatever. And the graphics when you play Halo 5 on the Xbox One are like, Jesus Christ. I feel like I was playing on an Atari. What the hell is this? Like, it's actually really noticeable, really good.
I do have a recommendation for you. I know, Doug, you say you and the wife rock out Fortnite. If you have Game Pass, the game It Takes Two, I played it with my middle kid. It is the most brilliant. I don't know how I forgot about it. The most brilliant co-op game I think I've played in like a decade, because you have to work with the other player to get through, and it's not challenging, but it's fun. So like you could just do a level and then be like, all right, we're done for the night. But the story is good. It's written well. It's fun to play. It's just like, it's really, really well done. The company who did it, what is it? I don't know which company. Hazelight Studios, I think. Hazelight.
Yeah, but it's also
published by EA.
Yeah, it's published by EA. So
yeah, it's really, really good.
It's right here, Jay. I shall share it so you can share it. It looks kind of silly and fun, though. I think you're right. Like kind of platformy almost.
There's a lot of there's a lot of really good old school gaming. Like it's beautiful to look at. It's a stunning game. It almost looks like claymation in parts.
Yeah.
There's some dark humor in there, but there's a lot of, like, for me to play with one of my kids was great because we have to work together. And so we have to communicate because sometimes it's not a strong suit between a quasi teenager and his father. But yeah, no, it was really, really well done. It was worth, I think it took us like a week to get through it, playing like an hour or so a day. Absolutely brilliant. Whatever awards it wins, it totally deserves.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Thanks for that recommendation. I'll see if I can do that because, the thing is, like, I'm at this. I haven't finished a Halo game, and I'm at this one point where I'm just getting my ass kicked on a final boss on a level, and I'm just like, usually all right, I'm just going to keep going, and I'm like, I'm. It's like 10:30. I'm old, and I need to go to bed.
Oh, look at this. I'm over here getting subscriptions on my Twitch because we're broadcasting there. So I guess I better say thank you, Weasel Toll, for subscribing. I haven't played a game on there in a while.
You need to get on that shit, man. What are you doing?
Working and living.
Working.
You don't stop working, Jay. You're always out there hustling.
Working, volunteering, podcasting.
Every day you're shuffling.
Okay, so let's go non-video games. So let's go current events, right? And I won't go anything deep. Let's talk the Super Bowl halftime.
Oh no, Doug! It was. Please tell me you're not groaning. It was so.
No, I was very happy with that.
I think my children were terrified. We're absolutely terrified to see my wife and I, like, word for word, and they're like, "That's not what they're singing on stage." I'm like, "That was on the album, sir. That was. Yeah. I got you."
Yeah, you can do that. See that parental advisory lyrics? Ha! Sort of plug. Yeah, I think you look at it and, like, the thing is like, so I tend to go on Twitter a lot because it's quick and it's easy and it's dumb and sometimes it's aggravating, but sometimes it's actually has some good shit. But seeing the amount of folks who are people of color going, this is great. Like, we can actually see the stuff that we listen to and what we grew up with, and it's like to actually see that. And Snoop coming out and do a crip walk on the stage was like kind of made a lot of people shit their pants, but it was. But it was great. Like you, Chris, I knew all the songs, I knew all the shit, and I think it was pretty interesting to see Eminem doing the kneeling as opposed to Dr. Dre doing it. I thought that was very calculated and very smart. But yeah, I thought that was an excellent show. And the only ones that I would say were better was Prince, but that's because it's fucking Prince. So
because he performed in the rain, he did Purple Rain in the rain. And didn't get wet. Mm-hmm. Like,
he commanded the rain.
Mm-hmm. Oh wait, did Beyonce do that halftime show? Was she the one that did a halftime show too, where she did like Formation and all that shit? That shit was awesome too. So
I was really happy because, like, you can tell Jay-Z, like, having apparently some, like, ownership stake or being behind the scenes, like, pushed for it this year. Like, you need to have more hip hop. Like, this is a culture that watches a lot of football. They may not be in the stands because your ticket prices are outrageous and they can't afford seats, but they are part of your fan base. You need to represent them. So it was the only one I think felt kind of out of place, maybe just because I don't listen to him, was Kendrick Lamar. I felt like there was a flow to the show and it was weird. I mean, it was still a great performance. It just didn't seem to flow as well as the rest.
They're two different eras. Like, literally, the rap that you have with Kendrick Lamar does now is far different than the stuff they did back then. Mm-hmm. So I think but I think having him in was smart because then you connect the newer generation with the older stuff. But like, I agree, it felt a little disjointed, but that's just, I think, because that's stylistically different.
I thought it was interesting, the conversations that it spawned. I like you too. I loved all the music. I was there for it. But to your point, Doug, on the Twitter reaction and the Facebook reaction, you had everything from the debate over, should Eminem have kneeled or not kneeled. We knew that was coming. But even to like look at there was a great conversation that came out of the surprise of 50 Cent 20 years later hanging upside down like he did in his video. And, there were people fat shaming him. And the guy's not fat, like he aged, but he's not fat, So like to see all the conversation that spawned out of it about having hip hop in the halftime show again, about having Eminem kneel and was it for Kaepernick or was it for Tupac, and then having 50 Cent and male body shaming. It was really entertaining to see everything that came out of it, and I think it was very well
done. Agreed, for sure. So yeah,
it'll be interesting to see where they're at next year and how they try to top it, because
it's going to happen. It's going to be like, and Paul McCartney does the halftime because they're going to have to shift back to the white people again. So,
and the return of the Dave Matthews Band. I'm going to be like,
oh, listen,
what?
I don't mind a Dave Matthews Band. I don't want to see him at the halftime show.
No, it just doesn't fit. Like, yeah.
Or like a grunge act. That would be fucking hilarious. Pearl Jam at the halftime show.
I mean, I'll take Foo Fighters.
I would take Foo Fighters. I would absolutely take Foo Fighters. I would take Imagine Dragons. I would take, something that's a little loud.
Yeah, I'd be a little leery of the Imagine Dragons, but that's me. I know you guys are bigger fans of that group than I am.
I'm telling you, they put on a great live show. Don't let the CDs fool you. But I get it. It's not everybody's taste.
I will say they did a great theme song for the show Arcane, if you've ever seen that. They actually did the theme song. That was really good.
So from my Twitch stream, Weaseltail said that it was pure nostalgia for him. He enjoyed every minute of it. And I have to agree with that. Miss Ash, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. What would be whether it be an amalgam of artists like that or a particular artist, like we said that, but what would be like if somebody said you announced this, you'd be like, holy shit, that's going to be awesome. I mean, just somebody that you would not expect to do it, but somebody you'd be like, that sounds awesome. Let's see them.
I see. What's weird for me is I feel like that was my reaction to this halftime announcement. I remember when they put out, because every year, right? I think it's Pepsi is always the sponsor, and you've had the Cardi B commercials and all that. And I like Cardi B, don't get me wrong, but when they put out that like 2-minute long trailer that had Snoop coming out and Dre and Eminem in the studio rapping against his younger Slim Shady self, and I'm like, oh shit, it's happening. We're getting this halftime show. And like I said, there are some other people that I'd be really hyped for. I know Carlton and I have a huge affinity for Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters. And I think they could do some great things working Nirvana stuff into that if they could get past the legality of it. But I don't know who in my mind right now, who they could ever, I don't know, from other genres get to work together like that without it going into ego mode. Like,
yeah,
are you like throwing McCartney and the Rolling Stones? Like, who are you mixing up?
What would be great is just like as a middle finger to the right wing would be if they threw out the Dixie Chicks on a halftime show.
They're just the Chicks now, Doug.
They're just the Chicks. You are correct. I mislabeled them there. My apologies. But I just thought that I see like the people losing their minds, all the freaking.
Then they're gonna have to do what was the song Not Ready to Make Nice? That was their big hit after Bush. Yeah, I mean so there's people I'd love to see, but like I said, the two that stand out definitely to me still, Prince will always be huge. This one I think is going to go down in history. Beyonce was fabulous, but I think they're probably going to go back to either singular artists with the occasional like one-off where they pull somebody on stage with them. I think it'll be a while before we see something this big again in terms of like star power and historical music on one stage.
Yeah, at least it's not some guy running around in a mirror hallway.
You didn't enjoy the weekend, Doug.
I like him. That was just a weird Listen, he's an eccentric dude, but I just was like, that's really not the spot to do that. But
No.
So here we go. I'm going to make everybody vomit except maybe Chris. Chris won't vomit. He'll understand where I'm coming from. My horribly amazing halftime show.
I know
Now that Britney is free.
No.
Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, In Sync, the Backstreet Boys.
Jessica Simpson.
I was fine until you said the Backstreet Boys, Jay. First of all, it's got to be a fantasy because no one is ever going to get an In Sync reunion. Ever.
They've gotten an In Sync reunion without Justin. I mean, I think we just have to let it go.
I mean, they have an In Sync reunion without Justin. It's like the crew that's working at Domino's right now. Like that's what they're doing. Without Justin, like, guys, hang it up.
What if what if we had a Culture Club reunion show? Hey, I'm an 80s guy. I can't help it.
I would enjoy it. I'm not going to lie.
That would be ridiculous and awesome because I don't know why I always like their music.
So Weasel Toe, not to interrupt, Weasel Toe just said Bruno Mars and Red Hot Chili Peppers was one of his favorites.
Yeah, that was a really good mashup.
I feel like if you got Bruno Mars, the Silk Sonic album he just did, and you could do some of those songs as a halftime because they're pretty high energy, pretty high performance. And Bruno Mars does put on a pretty good live show every time he's performed. So it would definitely be pretty entertaining. But trying to find an artist that like crosses that divide that won't have half the audience leave the room because they're like,
Well, like, who do we get for the We're Not Dead Yet halftime show? Like I said, you've got the Rolling Stones, you've got Def Leppard.
Def Leppard. Jesus Christ.
Hey, they're touring with Joan Jett and Journey right now. I mean,
the problem is with Journey, you can't have them on because they don't have Steve Perry. And that's that guy that they have sounds a lot like him as I am. So.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's like, it's like Queen with Adam Lambert. Like, okay, it's Queen, but
it's with Adam Lambert.
It's not Freddie Mercury. So it's like Queen Light.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the rehash Sublime with Rome,
Queen Light Tifa. Sorry. I'm an idiot. Sorry, folks.
That's going to show up in the comments. Like, did he just make that joke? Yeah, he sure did.
Yes, I did. Yeah. Hey, I'm a dad. So what happens?
Look, I gotta love dad jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
so what next? Do we want to get serious and talk about Ukraine? We're at 9:44. I know it's getting late.
I feel like the only thing I have to say is I have a hero. His name is President Zelensky. Because that dude has a larger pair of testicles than I would ever have in my entire life. Like, you are single-handedly making Vladimir Putin look like a tool on the national stage. And that hasn't happened ever.
Don't offer me a ride, send me ammo.
Yeah.
Like, the guy was a comedian, became president, and he's out there with not even full body armor, just saying. I think that I talked to you about it, Chris, right? So he was on a teleconference or something. It was like, this may be the last time you hear my voice. And that's when we were like, we'll get you out. Nope, don't offer me a ride, send me ammo. And I was just like, holy shit, man. Who would have thought?
I feel like worldwide, the rest of the leaders of the world need to be like, like, that's how you lead. Like, he is out there. His faith in his people and what's right is literally just egging them on to fight harder. And I was like, that's what they need. They need someone who's not going to roll over. Like, this guy is just amazing.
And don't forget, he's also the guy that told Trump to go fuck himself when he tried to blackmail him out of getting military aid. Like, I get Jeremy Renner, but I don't want Jeremy Renner anywhere near anything.
Jeremy Renner. It's going to be next year's Hollywood summer blockbuster. Jeremy Renner. playing President Zelensky.
Okay, look at the the very bottom left one. The very bottom left.
This one?
Look at the fucking mustache. No, left. Look at that. Hey. He looks like, hey, don't worry about what I just put in your drink.
It's like if he was trying to play a really bad version of Sean Penn.
That's a low bar because he's a fuckwad. So I will say quickly, like, yes, Zelensky has been amazing, and being in the trenches with his folks has been pretty awesome. Vladimir Putin's been nowhere to be seen. He hasn't been anywhere to be seen. And I think he didn't realize, the resistance that the Ukraine would put up. And I don't think he counted on his allies like Kazakhstan and Hungary being like, fuck off, we're not getting involved. And it makes him look bad. And like Trump, he's a fucking narcissist, and he wants everybody to not love him, but not either. They want to be afraid of him or they want him to be his lackey. He doesn't have any in between. So, the thing is, the Ukraine folks are outgunned, and from a military hardware standpoint, but they're holding the fort, man. They're doing everything they can. So, kudos to them for just being like, I don't know if you saw, there was a video I saw today where some dude found a fucking mine under a bridge and like just picked the fucking thing up and walked it off. And I was like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, not in a million years would I touch that thing. Fuck that. You got clangers, man.
Yeah, I saw a few different videos. There was one where they were there with a 21-year-old guy, Ukrainian soldier, and he was the only one guarding this specific bridge. Like, nobody else was there. This 4-lane bridge, and they're just like, you're here to guard it from any Russian armor or whatever that comes. I'm like, you have essentially a child. Like, I know I was in the military around the same age, but you just said, plant your ass on this bridge and stay there. And they're doing it, right? And beyond the soldiers, I think it's great to see, like, you've got civilians out in the street, and they're like, no, we're not leaving. There's been a lot of videos that I know Russia has tried to say, oh, it's misinformation, but like have been proven to be true. The people are like, oh, they sent in Russian troops and they're out of fuel, and you've got Ukrainians who are like, you need a ride back? I'll take you out of the country, because, like you said, they're just not getting support. But I think it's one of those. It's sad what we're going through, and it's sad in a sense of when you have a narcissist like that. No matter how much the rest of us come together, you have to remember that somebody who is essentially over an entire country at any moment can click a button, right? So that's my worry. We've got to make sure that doesn't happen.
I mean, my other positive is I love Elon Musk, and I know some people hate him, like, because he comes off as a giant turd sometimes. But like, I love how Ukraine was like, we don't have internet, and he was like, oh, I got you, and just activates Starlink and gives Ukraine like the fastest internet on the planet. And I was like, no one, like, it's cool he did that, but no one's going to question that he literally has control of the internet over Ukraine right now. Like, he just flick of a switch, and now they have okay. But like, that was cool. Like,
he Tony Starked it. He was like, okay.
Oh, he totally Tony Starked it.
Yeah, but he can't get a fucking underground high-speed rail to go, so I don't know. That guy's a fuckhead too. Sorry, I am not a fan of his. So
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of him. I am a fan of the projects that he enables. I'll give it that. Like,
that's fair.
To put Americans back in space, to like Carlton said, to be able to override a dictator who's probably controlling the flow of information in and out of their country and say, here's internet, and I'm sending you the receivers you need to actually use it. That part of stuff is great, but yeah, like, I don't have to like him as a person. And I know we've had that conversation about other people in the past. So yeah, that's where I stand on it. We are coming up on an hour. So I think the last thing I want to do, especially since we apparently do still have some viewers out there, and I know most of them are in video game land. But for those of you who do follow us for things other than video games, we do have an upcoming episode scheduled. It will not be live like this one. It was actually supposed to be tonight, But in searching for guests that are more special than ourselves and Chris, I was able to secure a commitment from a state representative in Colorado. It was a one of only 8, if I read the data correctly, or one of only 8 transgender state representatives in all of the United States. State Representative Brianna Tatone will be joining us to discuss the Don't Say Gay bill that is being pushed through the circuit here in Florida, and then also Governor Greg Abbott in Texas and his AG declaring that transitional care for children is a crime. So I think it'll be amazing to have her joining us. I am going to, before we speak a little bit on that and close it out, actually play her campaign video.
Yeah, this is a pretty big get, and Jay, man, pulling that was awesome, and I'm really looking forward to that conversation because I have a trans son and I have multiple LGBTQIA plus kids. So yeah, I'm in. This is gonna be fun and interesting for sure.
So hopefully I get sound this time.
I've always had a real good sense of the community. Started out when I was a volunteer firefighter in my small town in New York. We got this call for this fire, and we get to the scene, and this fire is raging. Before you knew it, all of the other fire companies were called in to help, and the chief was getting the lieutenants and the captains to get their teams together to get this out. That really showed me that people do come together to work for a cause. And I want to bring that sense of community to the legislature. I'm running now because I've actually gotten the courage to do it. As a trans person, running for office is a dangerous thing. There's a lot of people that don't really like me just for me. So I'm really putting myself out there. When I'm knocking on the doors, people say to me, I've never had anybody knock on my door before. They get really excited about it. And a lot of people are upset about a lot of the same things. They're upset about funding for education. They're tired of the roads being bad and the cost of healthcare skyrocketing. Some people that said, I don't have any time to talk right now, ended up spending almost 10 minutes talking to me at the door. The role that I'm trying to get elected for is called representative. How can I represent anybody if I don't have a conversation with them and know anything about them? There are a lot of people that feel voiceless, and that just makes me want to be their voice. The purpose of government is really to do the services that we all need. Me getting elected helps break a barrier that people have been trying to break for a long time. If we don't have people breaking through barriers and making change, we won't get anywhere. We all really have the same goals. We just have different ways of trying to get to those goals. I'm Brianna Tatone, and I'm running for Colorado House District 27.
Bravo to that. I wonder where in New York, because I live in New York, so we'll have to ask her that.
Since that video, she has obviously won. I was doing some research, and it was in a predominantly conservative territory. So again, I think coming into it, stating that people don't like you because you're trans and you're viewed as different, and getting people to actually talk to you at their doorsteps, we don't see a lot of that. I know that we've seen it in past campaigns where there was a lot of grassroots efforts. It was when I really put out there. I won't name them on this show because I don't want to make anybody feel bad, but we have a few friends that and acquaintances I did try to invite, just that we know Doug, and right now is a very emotional time for the trans community. Yeah. So I completely understood. They did offer to send in their thoughts, and I said, hey, whatever you're comfortable with, no big deal. And I said, I came across one of the representative's tweets about Florida, and I'm like, oh, great. Well, I live here again. So I'm reading the tweet, and on a whim, I said, I'm going to take a shot in the dark, because I was telling Chris, they have to follow you to even send you a message back. So I didn't think I'd hear anything, And then I get the message that's tell me more about the podcast. And I immediately went into, oh shit, elevator pitch mode. Let me tell you about Doug and me and the podcast. And yes, I'm not Joe Rogan, and I'm not the Armchair Pod or anything huge. So yeah, it's great. I'm looking forward to it. Right now, we are scheduled, for those of you who are interested, to have that conversation in normal podcast form on Wednesday. I'll try to get it up by the weekend. I will say, if anybody out there, obviously, knows Doug or Chris or myself, and you want us to relay any sort of question, I'm happy doing that as well during that show. Of course, as long as we're all civil and responsible with our questions.
And behave yourself.
I'll actually mention it to my kiddos this week and see if they have any questions for her, because we discuss current events in the classroom, and they have questions because they see that, and fun conversations you get to have with teenagers who are like, why does the world suck? And I was like, because you don't run it yet. We obviously have failed you. You need to fix it for us.
And I think that is a good note to end it on. So again, for those of you out there all over, I know we're broadcasting to Facebook and Twitter and Twitch tonight. For those of you that stopped by on Twitch, who usually are here for the games, we appreciate you sticking around. We did talk a little bit about Halo and some other stuff. If you enjoyed it, just go ahead and check out the podcast. We've got 3 seasons out there. Hopefully this one won't fall off the grid like I did in the past. But you can find us pretty much everywhere: Apple, Google Play, Spotify, Anchor, wherever you want. And then you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining us and hanging out with us. And yeah, it's been a while, but life happens, and as you probably heard earlier, we had a lot of weird and big stuff happen. But we're going to be back here, and we're going to be a bit more regular on this show, trying to get it out in time for everybody. And I don't mean regular and eat your bran and oats and all that stuff. So
I was just about to make that joke, Doug. I was literally just about to make it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Thanks, everybody. Jay,
thanks, everyone.
Chris, what do you guys got to say?
No, same thing. Thanks to everybody who came out. I just put some comments up from viewers on Twitch. Weasel said that they really enjoyed the show. So again, thanks for sticking with us. This won't be a weekly thing. I think we'll do this every once in a while and get back to our normal recorded podcasts. But it was great to have everyone here. And Chris, sorry I roped you into an additional show by having a different guest come later in the week.
We're just adding numbers to my guest appearance robe at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for having me back, guys. You could call and be like, I'm in. Dude, it's 12 o'clock on a Thursday. I'm in. What are we doing?
Okay, we're going with the outro. Thanks, everyone.
You've been listening to the Parental Dadvisory Podcast. If you haven't done it already, be sure and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Want to get social with Doug and Jay? Check out parentaldadvisory.com for direct links to everywhere they are online, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. One last thing. If you enjoyed the Parental Dadvisory Podcast, give it a positive review and tell all your f***ing friends about it.